Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my March wrap up. So the 3 videos that I put up this month were a Project 10 update where I just talked about how Project 10 is going so far this year and kind of just what I'll be doing going forward. Then I did an unboxing video of the Book Riot quarterly box that I got this month. I love the books that were included in that. So if you haven't seen that and you are interested to see what I got, you can always check out that video. And then last week I did a comics roundup where I just talk about some of the comic books I've been reading for the past 2 months. There are a lot of new additions to what I'm regularly reading, so if you're looking for some new comics to check out, you can always watch that for some of the things that I've personally been enjoying recently. And then I also did a review on the graphic novels March, books 1 and 2, which I read actually in February. And then I also did a review on Immunity, which I read right at the end of February, but I just put up my review this month. And then the first book that I read in the month of March was Fairs by Marissa Meyer, which is actually a novella that goes into the Luna Chronicle series. I did a video review of that one as well, so if you guys are interested in that, check it out. Personally, I really like that novella. I think it added some really interesting insight into the character of Queen Lavanna, and it kind of just made me more excited for the next book that's coming out in the series later this year. The next book that I read in the month of March was A Rogue by Any Other Name by Sarah McLean. I got this in one of my quarterly boxes last year, and then since I'm doing the Book Riot Read Harder challenge, one of the challenges is to read a romance novel, so I read this and it's not for me. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, and I feel a little bad about that rating because it's not like this was the worst book I've read. Of course, if it was the worst book I've read, I probably would have given it 1 star. But it was fine for a romance novel. This is the second romance novel I've ever read in my life, and it just confirms the fact that I don't think romance novels are really for me. I don't even like contemporary romance most of the time, so things like romance novels where it's like literally just all about this relationship. Yeah, no, not my thing. I did like the main character in this one a lot though. I wasn't super crazy about the dude. If you're interested in romance novels, Sarah McLean wouldn't be a horrible place to go because it is very well written. It's very like fun and compelling, so like I didn't slog through this by any means. I've read it pretty quickly and I'm glad that I like gave it a chance, but yeah, just romance just isn't my thing. So then I finished Discontent and Its Civilizations, Dispatches from Lahore, New York, and London by Mohsin Hamid. This is a collection of essays that were written over the span of like a decade and from all different places. This is kind of just like a collection of things that have been published by Mohsin Hamid in other publications. This book is split up into 3 collections: Life, Art, and Politics. So instead of just being a chronological collection of essays, Mohsin Hamid like collects them into these themes so you can kind of see his opinions on various areas of life, and so I really liked it for that fact. But I'm going to say that this isn't really a great essay collection just because personally I think it just falls a little bit short. I think because these were mainly for online publications, these essays all just felt really short. I think it could have just used a lot more depth. Reading it as in book form is a very different experience than reading articles online, and so I don't think they translated very well, and I think a lot of them could have used a little bit of updating or just some expansion on the ideas that are covered because they're really short. Like some of these are like a page and a half at most. So yeah, it's not like this is bad by any means, but it was just a little bit disappointing. Then I ended up reading The Shadow Cabinet by Maureen Johnson, which is the 3rd book in the Shades of London series. I really like this series a lot, but I found with this one I'm kind of just not super into the series anymore. I don't know why. I don't know, like the characters just didn't really do much for me, and I feel like the mystery that they are going for now just, I don't really care that much. But I don't know, I just wasn't super in love with it, and I think that's just like where I'm at right now and what I'm interested in. This book wasn't really doing much for me. I don't know, I don't really know how to talk about this book because one, it's part of a series, so I feel like it's just another extension of the series, and I will read the 4th book because I'm intrigued to see how it finishes, but I just felt like this book doesn't need to be a series. I felt this way since I read the 1st book. Like when I went into it, I didn't know that it was going to be a series, so I was kind of like, ugh, when I got to the end of it, but I feel like it doesn't need to be a 4-part series. Like, I don't know, I feel like this could have been like maybe a trilogy, maybe, but I don't know, I'm just not super into it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because again, it's not a bad book, and some interesting stuff does go down, but it just it doesn't have the hold on me that it used to. And then the next book that I read was Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami, and I did not like this book. This book is relatively short. It's like 250 pages-ish. And it felt like a bit of a slog to me, and I think it's just not my thing. I don't know if Murakami's really my thing, although I was reading some of the reviews on Goodreads, and a lot of people say that this actually isn't a good place to start with Murakami. So, I don't know. I'm thinking about giving like Sputnik Sweetheart or something a try, just to see. His books aren't very long, so I feel like it wouldn't be like harmful to read another one of his books. The things I did like about this book was Haruki Murakami's writing style. He sets a mood very, very well. Like, this book is very gloomy and very melancholy. I really liked all the parts with Toru's friend Nayoko. I'm totally gonna butcher all of these names. And I also really liked all of the parts with Nayoko's roommate. When Toru goes and visits her and just everything that happens a little bit later in the book, those parts were really interesting to me. But I like hated so much of what was happening in this book, and I don't know if that's the reaction you're supposed to have when reading this book. Spoilers. I'm going to do spoiler section here because I don't want to do a full book review, but I also want to talk about this book, so click on my face if you want to skip ahead. I like don't understand why everyone sleeps with Toru. I don't understand why everyone kills themselves in this book. I mean, I like the concept in the beginning, but then when it just kept happening over and over again, I don't understand. Like, nothing about Toru seems very appealing to me personally, so that's also why I was having a hard time with understanding why he was appealing to any of these women. Especially at the end when Nayoko's roommate, and I can't remember her name, it starts with an R, sleeps with him. I was just like, why is this happening? Like, I understand Nayoko's suicide. Like, I felt like that was very clearly being shown throughout this book, like it was a very clear path. But I felt like every time I was just going through this book or reading this book, I didn't understand the point of anything that was happening. That was really hard for me to deal with, and I don't know if that is the point of reading Murakami like that. There is no point, but books like that just aren't for me, aren't my thing. Then I read A Citizen, an American Lyric by Claudia Rankine, and I actually recorded a review on this that will be going up this week. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I really liked it. This is just really beautiful, really unique, I think is what it has going for it. I've never read anything else like it before. It's listed as like a poetry collection, but it's also listed as like a collection of essays, both of which are completely accurate. And there's also art included in here. I feel like this book in and of itself is just like modern art. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because the commentary and the way this is written is just so powerful and so beautiful. But yeah, check out my review when it comes out. And then I read Broken Harbor by Tana French. This is the 4th book in the Murder Squad series. This one follows Mick, who we are introduced to in Faithful Place. He gets called in on a mystery where this family lives off on this place called Broken Harbor, but it's been renamed to Bryonside, I believe. It's a family of 4, the 2 parents and then the son and daughter. The father is found bleeding on the kitchen, completely dead. The wife is found bleeding on the kitchen, but she's still alive. And then the 2 kids are found upstairs and seem to have been suffocated to death. So Mick is called in to investigate and see what happened and see who's at fault for these murders and for these attacks. And of course, as Tana French books seem to go, there seems to be a little bit of history in terms of Mick's history with this area, and just things from his past continue to come up. I really enjoyed this book, which really shouldn't be a surprise at this point because I really like all of Tana French's books so far. I don't know how I would rank this one in comparison to the others. The Likeness is still my absolute favorite. I found it a little bit predictable in the sense that I feel like I've read enough of Tana French's books that I'm starting to see her style, and I can now see sort of how she lays things out. But at the same time, there's still so many parts in here that completely took me by surprise and I did not see coming whatsoever. So I still love her books for that, but the reason why I love her books the most is because they're not really just mystery novels, there's more going on. And the final book that I finished was At the Dark End of the Street by Danielle L. McGuire, and the subtitle to this is Black Women, Rape, and Resistance, A New History of the Civil Rights Movement from Rosa Parks to the Rise of Black Power. This book just kind of covers not just the Civil Rights Movement, it starts like before the Civil Rights Movement, kind of like in the 1930s-ish, and it talks about how women had such a significant impact packed on both the civil rights movement but also like the feminism movement. This book covers a lot of just the crap that black women had to deal with a lot of the time growing up in America, especially the South, being attacked and raped and having no repercussions happen for the people who attacked and raped them. These men would just walk away scot-free because either law enforcement wouldn't really do anything about it, or if they did do something about it, they would be put in front of a jury who would basically just set them free. This book also does talk about Rosa Parks and talks about just her growing up and her history and her life working as a lawyer. It does a lot to sort of debunk the idea that Rosa Parks was this model black woman for the non-resistant movement. She did a lot of work prior to that, fighting the government and fighting local law enforcement and trying to stop injustice that was happening in the United States. It also shows that the civil rights movement wasn't sort of this one moment in time. It was sort of growing over a couple decades, and it was all leading up to that point. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It was hard to read at times, not so much because it's like complicated, but because the subject matter is so difficult. The author does a really good job of being really thorough with her research, and like when she tells you that something bad happened, she provides you with like 20 examples of that exact same thing happening to multiple people. After a while, it gets really difficult to continue to read about women being attacked and women being raped and men being attacked and men being put in jail unfairly and just all of this stuff that would happen. So I had to actually just read this in like small doses because I couldn't take too much of it at one time. And if you are someone who is sensitive to those subject matters, I wouldn't recommend this book because it's really tough to read. But just because something is tough to read, I personally don't think that it's worth not reading. So I made myself sort of just like push through that uncomfortableness, and I think that uncomfortableness is sort of necessary when talking about these situations because they did occur, and I think we all need to just confront the fact that they did occur and have an appropriate viewpoint for crap that people had to deal with all the time and kind of still do have to deal with. In terms of what I am currently reading, I'm currently going through This Side of Home by Renee Watson. This is a young adult novel that follows these two twin girls as their neighborhood basically just goes through like gentrification, which is super interesting. I wasn't expecting that from a contemporary YA book at all, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm about halfway through so far and I plan on finishing this tonight, so you guys can check out my Goodreads page if you want an immediate update into how I'm enjoying this, but I'm really liking this book a lot. I'm also currently reading The Killing Mood by N.K. Jemisin. This is a fantasy book that I got in one of my quarterly boxes and I've just started it. I'm like maybe 50 pages in, not even, probably like 30 or something pages in. And the other book that I'm currently reading is Washington, A Life by Ron Chernow. I used air quotes while currently reading because I actually put this book down once I started At the Dark End of the Street, mostly because I wanted to finish that book in the month of March for Women's History Month. This book I put down, I actually got this from the library, so I renewed it and I have it for another month, so I'm hoping that I will finish that this month. But again, I'm reading this very slowly because that's just what I have to do in general with nonfiction. So I'm about like 50 pages in, like barely a dent made in this giant book. But I made one of my New Year's resolutions to read a Washington biography, or read a presidential biography, and I'm starting with Washington. But I am enjoying it. Don't let my attitude make you think I'm not enjoying it. I actually really do like biographies a lot, and this one is very thorough, and it's just really interesting reading about George Washington because I'm learning a lot about him that I definitely did not realize before. So yeah, reading through this one, hopefully I can finish it this month. So yeah, that is my March. If you've read any of the books that I have talked about here, or if you have any questions about any of those books, feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know. Also, next week I will be having my Q1 update, so you guys can look forward to all of those charts and stats that I know you guys like so much because you all are nerds like me. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.